The Idea Start podcast explores all things innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, co-created by Idea Start and the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning. Join us to move your ideas to impact with the University of Manitoba community.
Today on the Idea Start podcast, we're joined by Dr. Brenda Stoesz. She's an educator, she's a researcher, and an innovator. And her project is all around using virtual reality to help educators develop and practice their communication skills so that they can more effectively serve their students. For more information about Brenda's program, see the link in the description. Let's start the conversation. Brenda, welcome to the Idea Start podcast. We're so excited to have you today.
I'm excited that you asked me to join you. It's such a thrill, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Fantastic. The feeling is mutual. I must say, as my teacher heart was thinking about today, I'm really excited to be digging deep into educational innovation. And we're so excited to have your expertise. To get started, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, maybe as an educator and a researcher, what might be of interest to our audience?
Let's see. Well, I have humble beginnings, as a K-12 trained teacher. And I did that training here at the University of Manitoba, taught high school science and math for a little while, realized that I had more to learn. But in between, I was also fortunate enough to work with Assiniboine Community College and was a nurse instructor for a little while, and then came back here to the U of M, fell in love with psychology, and went about my degrees in psychology and brain and cognitive science, and as luck would have it, back to education in the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning. So it's been quite an interesting journey.
Oh, fantastic. So the center, tell us a little bit about that unit here at the university.
Sure. So here at the university, we are exploring different ways to create professional development programs for our faculty. A lot of people will not have a formal training in teaching, and so the center is really here to provide those supports. And I started here at the center with that. Specifically around academic integrity. So that was kind of a new thing. I was really lucky to have been hired for that specific role of promoting academic integrity and helping faculty incorporate really simple things into their teaching to support students in making the right choices. So it's just sort of grown from there. I've been here now for, 10 years. 10 years. So it's been fun. There's always something new and challenging to work on, and the research is now a large part of my role. So that's exciting to have a teaching and learning center with a research unit.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we should get right into this. Brenda is leading, as part of her work, a really exciting and very innovative way of using technology to support instructors. So why don't we get right into that and tell us a little bit about the folks that you're trying to serve in this project?
Yeah. So I guess I need to go back a little bit to why I wanted to use technology to support educators. So in my formal training as an educator in the Faculty of Education here, I did a lot of practicing in practicums, practicing teaching in micro-teaching, and then, eventually being able to get into the classroom and work with students and starting my career as an educator. When I was doing my graduate studies here in psychology, learning how to teach is not formalized. And yes, you're required to do seminars and presentations and things like that, but it's not the same as teaching. So when I started here at the center, that is what I was really interested in, is how to bring more practice into things. So I did try to bring practice and active learning into my workshops, and maybe didn't do it the way I wanted to, but I have been lucky to be able to think about technology, especially because of generative AI, and I have a background in eye tracking. and thinking about ways that we can make something interesting to learn in the teaching skills area. And I thought of VR. So I don't have a background in VR necessarily, but I thought it was a interesting way to engage and maybe motivate people to practice their skills who might not otherwise do it in a different setting.
This is very interesting. But, before we get into the details of the program, I just want to quiz you a bit on that why again.
Yeah.
For people who are seeing you for the first time, who don't understand this whole context, I think it would be great if you could kind of tell how is this connected to your role, this practicing thing, how is this connected to your role? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because you started off talking about ethics, and now we are talking about practicing teaching. So where is the connection in that?
So I just think about when I first started teaching and not feeling comfortable with the skills part and being incredibly nervous every time I was teaching. So hands were sweaty and I felt nervous. And I have also watched faculty members. I've been a mentor in the TLC program, which is the Teaching and Learning Certificate program here. And watching them teach and noticing some nervousness or maybe some skills that weren't quite honed and wondering about how to help support that. Yes, we can have conversations about what that would look like, but if it had a way to practice those skills, maybe that would reduce some stress levels and, just to become in the it's public speaking. So to become more comfortable with that. So we can talk a lot about some of the other parts of teaching, like lesson planning, but those are those are activities that you do on your own.
On your own, yes.
You build these out. There's not really an audience for it. It's just your plan and how you stay organized. Like that's an important part of teaching. Preparing your lesson materials, but that's kind of on your own. You will be presenting them, but you've got to do it in a way that is engaging. And so it's that piece. I think it's the human connection piece, which is tricky, has been tricky over the pandemic, especially, the online learning, asynchronous learning, talking, teaching when you don't see your students, which can be done, but it takes a lot of practice as well. And so what do we do when we're face-to-face with people? How do we communicate with them, motivate them, get them interested in our topic without feeling the need to entertain? We're not entertainers. We don't have to do a song and dance. But it is really helpful, I think, for students when their faculty, when their professor, when their instructor is excited about what they're teaching and can explain it. And that requires honing communication skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So students, if you're listening in, your teachers might also get nervous sometimes and it doesn't come to them naturally, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think that, those students who are very aware, who have that sense of, empathy for their instructor who may not be the perfect presenter are going to understand that, but others might be frustrated. Why can't this instructor, they're supposed to be an expert, they're a university professor or whatever they are, wherever their role, but maybe their instructor is a graduate student as well and may not be an expert in teaching, even though they are really studying the content and becoming an expert in that. But it can be frustrating. I have a daughter who's in her first year of university, so I hear some of the things, and I also remember from my past experience as well of you know who are good teachers and who are struggling, and sometimes the demands are really, really high. So paying attention to your teaching skills and then taking opportunity to hone them in a safer place is really where I see the work that I do. and doing the research around it so that we can let our University of Manitoba community know that in our context, these kinds of things work to help build their skills. Sometimes they may not work in some contexts, but I think here with this kind of way of practicing, the literature shows that VR can support people in learning skills. And so we want to be able to say, hey, this works here too. Come and do this. You'll benefit long term as well if you hone your teaching skills. Perfect. And also become a better at disseminating your research as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
so I think I just want to really draw that out because I think that's really important for our audience, right? That K-12 teachers have a very different route to learning about teaching than adult educators who are, generally speaking, hired more for their expertise, right? And so the teaching part, the pedagogy, but also these communication skills, those have to be developed kind of as you're in the field already, as you're developing those skills. So I know that for myself and my own experience as a teacher and supporting new teachers as well.
So you're thrown in the job and then you have to learn? That's what you're saying?
You kind of do, yeah. And there's really no substitute until now, maybe, for the practice part. And so let's get into that. Tell us
and
more
now
about
I get it. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, tell us more about the solution. How does this work?
Yeah, so a number of years ago, I guess to backtrack a little bit more, I'm intrigued by technology. So I love to tinker, learn a little bit more. I don't always have the language, I like to understand programming, and I like to, I used an eye tracker for my master's, one kind of eye tracker, and for my PhD, and then I've done some eye tracking research here in the center as well, around how we process the visual information in a learning management system, for example. So I'd like to continue with that as well. But the VR intrigued me because I thought, there are people who also like technology, who want to try something new. And I think the skill development is important. So how do we do that? Well, we can do that in a workshop with very specific activities. But maybe jumping right into like public speaking is not the way to go. Maybe we can do that in a relatively safer environment. So learning should be challenging if it's worth learning. So it's not going to be just like easy breezy, sit in a lawn chair and, read a book kind of a thing. It is, you come in, they're very short modules when you're in the VR sessions, and there will be some sort of anxiety just getting used to VR, but then you dive right into the activity. And we want people to experience this a number of times so that they can get used to the technology and just how it works, and then move into the learning part of it. So for this first training module or program, we're focusing on communication skills. And so we do start off with a workshop so people can see these kinds of skills can be developed without technology, as simple as just speaking to somebody and having some guidance. But we also know that good teaching or good learning happens over time.
Yeah.
So rather than just having a single workshop, we wanted to extend some of the skills. So there's active listening in the workshop with activities, and there's communication with the activities, and extend that into a different sort of environment, VR, which is perhaps a bit safer for people who might feel anxious because they're alone in the environment. We don't watch, we step back, we support the person through sort of the technical logistics of it, and then we want them to be able to practice freely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after a few sessions, coming together as a group again and talking about like, what was this experience? And how will you take these things that maybe are not classroom scenarios, but they are communication general communication scenarios, and how would you apply them? So I think that is something that some people have some difficulty with. How do you take some of the skills you've learned and then apply it to your situation? And so we want to start that process with talking with others who went through the VR sessions and the workshop. And how are you going to take those basic communication skills and then use them to have better conversations with students to support them?
So let me just understand this again. So what you're saying is in this program, people would first come in and do the workshop the traditional way, right? And get to practice basic communication. But since they need more time to do their learning, then they use the VR and then they do the self-practice. And they go through that, and to see whether they have learned or not, they kind of reflect by doing group sessions. Is that how things go? Or
yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And
Okay.
also because we try to space it out over about a month.
Okay, so all of this is happening over a month.
Over a
Okay.
month,
Okay.
yeah. And we know that can, be a barrier for some professional development.
Right.
But we really want to encourage that learning takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And also by sort of interleaving it with, if you're actively teaching, you can take whatever you're learning at any point in the workshop or the VR sessions and practice in the real world, and then come back and see how you can apply that almost right away. So I think,
interesting.
that research shows in order to learn, we need repetition, time to practice, be able to apply it. So we really want to take what we know about what works and incorporate it really thoughtfully into the professional development opportunity.
So, Brenda, can you just walk us through a little bit more about the experience in the room? So here we have a faculty member, an instructor, and they have this VR headset on. And tell us what that's like. What are they really doing in there?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you what my very first experience with putting a VR headset on was. Maybe that will help with those first sort of feelings about, like, what is this if you've never put on a headset. And it was, in fact, Jofer, who I know is one of the people who set up all the technology here, who introduced me to it and gave me a first look. Although I had the idea, I thought this would be good, but I hadn't experienced it myself. And so I put this headset on, and it was just the basic, like, this is the environment. Like, there was no task I was doing. I was just putting the headset on, and it was just a meta headset. But I put that on, and I thought, okay, cartoon world, but now I actually feel like I'm in this. Like, I feel like I'm here. And just chatting with some people who use this as a way to connect during the pandemic, it was interesting how it can kind of trick our brain into feeling like we're in a different place. And I think sometimes when we're in a different place, we feel like we can do other things too, right? And I thought, oh, there's something here that eventually could be part of a future. And so when the opportunity presented itself to apply for a little bit of funding and put an idea together, I just took these things out of my brain from all the different experiences that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, ooh, maybe I could try developing something like this, knowing that it would take some time and, quite a bit of effort, and changing the way that we might do things. Takes time to get other people on board, but trying to take the risk.
So when you put it on the headset, you said you get transported to a different place, and but besides that, when let's say a new teacher takes up this program and tries it for the first time, what is the kind of experiences that they share? Do they warm up to it immediately, or does it take them time? How does that work?
I think what we're trying to do with the sessions, the very first session, is just get used to the fact that you're you're in a different place and not try to go through the exercises in a perfect way. What I've heard so far is that people want to be able to do the task perfectly right from the start. And that's why we also want to offer multiple sessions of the VR experience.
Right.
The first session is, okay, get used to this.
Yeah.
Explore. Look around the room like you're transported into a different room.
Yeah.
You look down and there's your body, but it's a different body, like you're wearing different clothes because you've chosen, a different avatar.
Right.
You can look out the window and see there's like something out there, and you're looking all around and you're sitting. And so that's the first experience. Just be in the space, explore with your eyes. And then when you're ready, and there are things that you need to do with your hands and controllers. So like test those all out and play. I know there's research that talks about the importance of play in learning. And, as we become adults, we might think play is not for us, but it is.
Yeah.
So just play and be in that, and don't try to have a specific objective right away of learning.
Yeah.
Just being.
That's so important, I guess.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then after that, once you're starting to feel comfortable and you're ready to dive into the modules that we've selected, they guide you through what you should do. And what's important is not to try to get things perfect. Just listen and, go through it. Try not to dwell on mistakes. There's nobody watching except the other avatars, and they're not real, but they feel real. They may feel real.
Yeah.
And then the next time you come in, that part, how that's going to feel. And then you can start, thinking more about, okay, I'm going to practice some skills. So we know there's that time where people just need to get used to it, and also be in awe, because it is quite something to be in a space that's not quite real but starts to feel real. And I think just playing and enjoying yourself and exploring. Now, it won't be for everyone. There are some risks with VR that we make sure that people are aware of. They may feel dizzy. They may, it might not be for them. If it's not for them, fortunately, they can complete the modules on a desktop computer, or even on their phone. So if people start to feel uncomfortable with the motion, although there's not a lot of motion, but, everybody's different, there are individual differences, then we want to have options for people to still engage in the learning and feel comfortable, but not feel that uncomfortable, physically uncomfortable.
Yeah. Brenda, can you just go back to what specific communication skills could you develop in this? You mentioned, I think, active listening was one, but what are some of the other specifics?
Yeah, just clarity.
Some of the modules, I guess.
There's two modules for this. So active listening. So listening to somebody telling you something, and then being able to paraphrase back what they've said. And you're scored on that within the module. Like nobody else sees the scoring, but making sure you're paying attention to eye contact, but not too much, because that is there's a balance there. So it is the skills of listening, and also the skills of how your body is positioned, your eye contact. The clarity of how you're responding back. So it's multifaceted. There's also paying attention to emotions, how the other person might be feeling. So emotional intelligence or emotional competence, or, there's different ways of describing that. So that it's soft skills, right? There's no like pipe fitting. I know that there's some modules, not in this program, but, different institutions have very hands-on kinds of things. So this is lots of skills in your head, really, but then also how do you communicate that out?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
What has been the reaction of participants?
The people who've come in are really engaged. They really enjoy it. The rest of my team has that firsthand knowledge, and then I hear the excitement from them that people get started and then they're just like, oh yeah, they just want to keep doing more. They come back. So everyone that has started has largely finished. So we're looking forward to having more people experience fun and being curious about this and really exploring something maybe that they haven't ever explored before. Yeah.
I think this is so much about innovation and taking a complete different approach to solving a problem. Don't you think, Janine? Because I think traditionally, as you would not look at using VR sets, to solve this problem. Maybe it's easier, I guess, not to go through the whole process of developing this and making an effort, and instead look at a traditional workshop, maybe hands-on workshop, right? So I know your first experience with VR headsets and trying it out kind of played a role, but as an innovator, there are many challenges, right? Did you ever think that taking this approach might be difficult? There might not be acceptance, or it's quite a thing to do something so unique.
Yes. So having big ideas is not really that could actually be realized, was not something that I thought was me, you know.
So you're not a big idea person? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Really?
I'm not a big idea person.
As you thought.
As you thought, yeah, this is pretty big idea, So.
I think I always thought that risks and big ideas were other people's area.
Wow, okay.
I'm a detail person. I like completing tasks and, logical, sequential, and, just, getting the job done and not making a big deal of it. Mm-hmm. That was the other thing, too, is that just let me go about my, my tasks. And because I had this fear of public speaking in the past, even though I was a teacher, like what a thing to go into, a fear of public speaking. And big ideas were for other people.
Yes.
And so here there was an opportunity for funding, and I thought, well, I could write out the big idea, and then if it's not funded, then it can just be over. And then I got a little bit of money, a little bit of money to explore, and then I got a little bit more money to explore and support from different people in the university. And so that was really exciting. But with that comes some pressure. Yes. Okay, now we need to get people to come in and experience this. And how do we do that? That has been a big challenge because I guess it is innovative. So how do we market this? Now I'm thinking about different things, and I need a whole team to do this. It's not a project that one person can complete. I've done projects where one or two people, and this is a whole different level.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now I'm thinking about marketing and advertising, and this is not my background. So how do we take what we know about the research and the experience and what's good pedagogy, and now make it something that people will want to do?
So so you got out of your comfort zone, right? Tried your big idea, and didn't let your what ifs hold you back. So now how's it been going? And I see that you want more people to come and participate, and I hope people who are listening will get inspired by today's podcast and would want to know more and hopefully join your program and participate. So what kind of people are the early adopters?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's so complicated for people given their roles. So if they're a graduate student, we'd love to have graduate students come and practice and learn skills. But if they haven't started their teaching journey yet, it might feel like it's something that is not appropriate for them. But graduate students who are thinking about applying for their first instructor position, or maybe they're just in it right now and they need some more practice with communication. And we actually hope to build on this. This is just the first module or set of training modules. We'd like to go into some other topics as well. Mm-hmm. So graduate students are great. They it might be assumed that they're the audience for something like this because of the technology.
Yeah.
But it's really for any educator at the university. So, you've been teaching for a while and you just want to try something different. And you might get ideas for how not only to communicate better with your students, but then how to teach your students how to communicate better as well. Because a lot of students will be nervous about formal communication, but may even just be nervous coming to office hours, so helping students through that. We'd love to have professors at all levels, instructors, lecturers, grad students sign up. And we hope to make it very flexible for people. So the workshop and the reflection are sort of set dates, but the VR portion of it can be done in our laboratory, in our new laboratories in our center. Or if they have a headset, we can facilitate them doing the modules at home with their own headset if they have a Meta headset.
Okay.
Or any combination. We want to make this flexible for people, knowing that they have busy schedules as well.
Yeah.
So that's been one of the major challenges: is how do we offer something that fits into people's lives? And so we're working through some of those challenges as well. So awareness is a big piece, like the marketing, but also how do people fit something new into their already busy schedules? Mm-hmm. And so we are happy to chat with people in setting that up.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Brenda, last question from me is just what could be next? What maybe new modules might you be considering, or new technologies, or perhaps offering this elsewhere? What could be next?
Yeah, so one of the big exciting pieces of this is a custom VR module. So we are actually set to see the second draft of a custom VR module that takes a University of Manitoba office, and a student comes in. And what we really want to get to is, how would you interact with a student who's coming for support to your office hours? Okay. So a student comes in, and then there's an interaction. The interaction isn't very long. Sometimes it doesn't involve the teaching portion of it. It is a student comes in with a problem, and how are you going to talk with them about solving this problem? And we'll encourage people to go through that interaction multiple times and explore, because it can sometimes just be a very short interaction. We've put some silliness into it and some fun into it as well. What the worst case scenario, nobody would think necessarily of responding in a completely inappropriate way, but we have that option there, so that you get that sense of if I were to do something that is not, how would that make the student feel? And it wouldn't make the student feel very good.
That's true.
So we have that. So I think that is one of the things, is we want to actually build custom VR environments and activities.
That's amazing, because I see, there are so many different areas where we could use this. I mean, for Idea Start, for one, we are setting up our innovation hubs, and the innovation hub associates who are sitting in that place are all grad students. So if this was on, I would, send all my hub associates to this, and they could learn how to interact with students, because for them this could be a first-time experience.
Yeah.
And so is for so many different people across different units in the university. So this is definitely very useful. Yeah.
And what's been really helpful is having some partners. So I know there's a whole VR community of researchers.
That's amazing.
Nursing, for example.
Yeah, nursing.
And they use body swaps as well, and many of the modules are very healthcare focused.
Yes.
But the skill part of it, like listening to people, those are common skills.
Yeah. Empathy.
But I think that's an important piece of this as well. The other part that I'm really pushing is how do we incorporate AI into this so that rather than multiple choice answers in the VR environment, that it's conversational.
Wow, AI plus VR.
Yes.
That's exciting.
But I've been told that that's not quite ready yet.
Wow.
And so that's a challenge.
It is.
Of finding, who could do that, and then, what needs to be in place for that to be a reality. Because the idea would be to try to get to a realistic practice environment that is safe for people to learn soft skills in, the soft skills of teaching. And so I'm trying, to push those boundaries a bit. Been told it's not ready yet. The technology is not quite there, but that we might see that in the next little while. So that's really exciting. So a really positive use of artificial intelligence or generative AI, and using that technology, which I'm trying to practice using that, and how do you incorporate that into teaching in a good way, where it doesn't have to be something that people fear as a way to cheat or that kind of thing, but actually using it as a training opportunity or a training medium.
So that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I have one last question.
Oh, sure.
For me, it's so important that you share with our audiences, as an innovator, what would you recommend to other staff members and faculty?
Oh, yeah. Good question.
If they're thinking, but they're getting held back because of their what-ifs, what's your thoughts, or what's your recommendation?
Well, I know this can be difficult, but finding someone who is an innovator, so who has that experience.
Reach out to Brenda, people.
I'm not sure about that. Even though I'm doing this, I don't quite identify as being an innovator at this point. But, someone who was a real help in this area for me to think bigger was Mark Torsha, so our vice provost of, he's got a new title now, which I haven't memorized. But so someone who thinks that risks are worth taking. So it might even be, you might think, oh, it's just a small thing. There might be a few risks associated with it, but maybe that's stopping you. Talking to somebody who says, well, okay, so make the mistake if it's a mistake, like lean into it, which I think is a very difficult thing. But then we have more opportunities at the U of M now for these kinds of exploration. So, Janine, your Better Together event is a way that students and faculty and administrators can work together and just sort of explore this. So if you don't have an idea, but you're interested in, well, how do I hone idea generation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Looking for these kinds of opportunities. And then I think, conversations with people, but finding the people, right?
Yeah.
So it means paying attention to podcasts and, different events that are happening at the university, and then just taking the risk, even if you don't have a perfect idea, just talk.
Yeah,
Perfect.
love that.
Get
Thank
some
you so
encouragement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brenda. Thank you for joining us
Thank
on the
you so much,
podcast
yeah.
today. But also, thank you really for really embracing your big idea, your innovation to improve teaching and learning.
And I must say, you're a real innovator.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That encouragement is very helpful for me to stay
absolutely.
motivated, and because there will be lots of downs,
Yes.
but there's lots of ups as
Yes.
well, and that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
It should be fun as well, and sometimes we think about it all as work, but it can be really exciting and enjoyable to try out these ideas and get people involved, and so that's worth it for me. But I know it needs to also have some value to the university community in order to move on. So I am thinking about ways to move forward and make sure that people can take advantage of this innovative idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Thank you,
so
Brenda.
much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you don't miss a new episode of the Idea Start podcast. Please connect with us and share your comments below. And let us know how the topics are resonating with you and what guests would you like to see featured.